Hello, hello! Welcome to the 20th episode of the Veggies Abroad Vegan Travel Podcast with the Chief Veggie Pusher, myself, Rebecca Gade Sawicki. Some of you may already be familiar with Veggies Abroad, but for those of you who aren't, we're a full-service vegan travel company that offers custom planning services, small group trips, a helpful blog chock full of just about everything a vegan or veg-curious traveler could possibly need, and this podcast. With this podcast, I hope to bring you guys the inside scoop of what vegan-friendly, and eco-friendly businesses are doing in the wide world of travel. Plus, I'll give you the full download of what's going on behind the scenes at Veggies Abroad. I am recording this just days before I'm set to leave for Japan. I'm currently in a mad dash to try and sew up as many loose ends as possible because for most of my clients, the time change is going to be severe, about 12 hours. This is one of the many instances where working on the road gets really challenging. I am headed there to do some research. Japan has emerged as one of the top destinations I've had client requests for this year. There are many places in the world where I can give really good advice and guidance without actually going, but Japan isn't one of them. From food to cultural differences, there's a whole lot to consider. I am really looking forward to that. But in addition to the time change, I am not looking forward to the weather. The summertime is literally the worst time to visit. The island is its own uncomfortable sauna. But with my schedule and availability of some things, I didn't have a choice. I have never spent so much time researching things to bring to deal with heat. I've got UPF rated umbrellas, cooling towels, cooling patches, and electrolytes. I will pretty much live in sweat-wicking clothing also. So we're going to really see if it actually wicks the sweat like it claims. I will be posting updates on Instagram so be sure to follow along. And if all goes well, this could be a destination for a future tour. Speaking of tours, you all are very excited about next year's Thailand trip. I really didn't think that over a year in advance I'd have so much interest in it. We've also just confirmed a visit to a really special elephant sanctuary that is run by an amazing woman. She started at a young age providing medical aid to elephants in remote villages, and then in the 90s started rescuing them. She's been featured in countless documentaries and National Geographic, CNN, been honored with many awards. So this is all to say that if you've been thinking about Thailand, you better act quickly. The trip is halfway full. Speaking of acting fast, our December Costa Rica trip only has 4 spots left, and the deadline is quickly approaching. It's September 5th. A few of you have emailed saying you're considering it or trying to make it work with your schedule. Well, you better get moving so you don't miss out. This trip isn't coming back next year, so this could be your only opportunity to hang out with some really cool veggie friends and see toucans and sloths and tree frogs, monkeys, and who knows what else. Okay, so let's get into today's episode. It's a unique one. I think we all can think of times when we've booked a getaway thinking that they'll have something for us to eat to find out it's endless piles of lettuce. I was chatting with a client a couple weeks ago, and they went to the Dominican Republic earlier this year. Side note, this was before they knew I existed. I did not book this. And they booked a resort that they thought was going to be friendly to find out that it was the exact opposite. And it wasn't a cheap trip. It's incredibly frustrating that in 2024, we're still dealing with pathetic options, especially at places that consider them culinary experiences. Yeah, I guess if you're a bunny. That's where today's guest comes into play. The talented and award-winning vegan chef and entrepreneur Chloe Coscarelli has been working with the Club Med Resorts brand since 2022 to improve and diversify their vegan options. With her help, they've added crowd-pleasing dishes like crispy orange tofu, spicy cashew kelp noodles, pasta alla vodka with pine nut ricotta, cupcakes, and so much more. I really want to get my hands on that crispy orange tofu. The move to improve and increase vegan options fits really nicely with Club Med's sustainability goals, which is fabulous to see. I can't tell you the number of hotels and resorts that I chat with that want to talk about sustainability and then have limited plant-based options on their menu. What we eat has to be a part of the conversation. It cannot be something that is left to the side. It needs to be central. In addition to food, Club Med has many sustainability commitments, like supporting 30 local farmers in the Dominican Republic, using solar energy, turtle monitoring and protection at their Caribbean resorts, a bye-bye plastics program to minimize the use of single-use plastics and replace it with biodegradable glass options, and more. All pretty cool, right? All right. So let's get over and chat with Chloe about how she helped veganize Club Med, and maybe there are other resorts on her radar. Hi, Chloe. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to chat with me, especially your new restaurant to take time out to chat with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So before we jump into your partnership with Club Med, let's talk a little bit about your new restaurant and where people can find it in case anybody's going to New York City anytime soon.
So we just opened less than 2 weeks ago. And
very exciting.
The project was a long time in the works. So me and my team are really excited to finally be open to customers. But it's all been just so exciting and fun to be back in the kitchen together and serve New York City again. We are on Bleecker and McDougal in the West Village in New York City. We have indoor and outdoor seating, and we're going for a vibe where it's like an all-day cafe where you can come, have lunch, have a drink, stay for dinner. And it's just been really fun seeing people come. So far, we have a lot of regulars that are already coming back, and we love meeting new people and seeing familiar faces. So we are busy and we are tired cooking in the kitchen all day. But we are having a blast.
Yeah, awesome. We'll include a little note in the show notes about where you're located so that people can check you out. If they have any summer or fall or even winter plans in New York City, they can come and hang out and have a cupcake or, I don't know, eat everything on your menu.
Yes, we are ready to serve you and feed you.
Perfect. So that rolls very nicely into what you've been doing with feeding people at the Club Med properties that are throughout North America. Can you talk a little bit about how this collaboration between you and the brand started?
I started working with Club Med a handful of years ago, and we started by doing a training, like an educational immersive week with chefs from all of the different properties in terms of just diving into vegan cooking, vegan ingredient swaps, just really kind of having a melding of the minds of all of the chefs of the properties of how we could all elevate the vegan options that Club Med offers together. And it was so much fun and so collaborative, just, getting to understand and taste recipes from specialties all around the world, and then looking at different, vegan ingredients and really understanding how we could swap and substitute and provide alternatives, but still bring those amazing recipes that these chefs have been creating all around the world to vegan guests. And it was really so much fun above everything else. I think that all of the chefs, we just really enjoyed testing and cooking together and creating new things together, that after that, I continued to work with Club Med in all different kinds of capacities, just really bringing a focus and awareness to vegan options and the vegan guests and their needs, and trying to make things as delicious as possible for them.
That's awesome. We always appreciate when things are delicious because nobody wants lettuce.
Yeah, if you're going on vacation, it's a special time of the year, and you want to be eating food that feels special and exciting, not just something that you could whip up at home in your own kitchen. So that's something that the chefs will really excited to deliver.
Yeah, that is really awesome. So when you first started working with them, was it the partnership, did it come because they had gotten a lot of feedback that there weren't a lot of options, or that they felt like they needed to kind of amplify what they already had?
I know that Club Med has always made it a priority to be aware of vegan guests' needs. And it's always been something that's been top of mind. But I think that, just the general ethos at Club Med is always just, improving and offering more. So working together with them and kind of putting my head together with the chef's creativity, we were able to just elevate the options that were already there and make sure that we were also just innovating and creating new ideas and new recipes. I know Club Med also relies on a very regular customer base, but if you're going on vacation, you want things to be changing and evolving and you want new things. So that was something that we focused on together. We may have X, Y, and Z vegan options, which are great, but how can we make them better and different? How can we offer even more?
That's really nice that they were kind of at the forefront of that, to want to expand on things. So often, so many resorts are like, here's the one option and you're going to have it for 7 days and don't complain about it. So that is a very, very good start. And to have you at the helm makes it even better for sure. So for listeners who are tuning in, when we're talking about the Club Med properties where you've had an impact, we're just talking about the North American ones, right? So the ones in the Caribbean, the ones in Mexico. Are there any others do you know of?
Yes. Let's see, where have I been? We did Cancun, we did Punta Cana, we did Miches. And like I said, we've also done trainings where chefs from all different properties come together in one property to train together. So that allowed me to have influence beyond the resorts that I was physically visiting, which was very nice.
Oh, yeah, that is very nice to be able to bring them in for kind of like a conference. And that really kind of speaks highly to what their intention was, to bring in these chefs from other properties around the world to say, okay, this is important for us. We need you to really pay attention to this. And, we're going to fly you here and we're going to bring her here and you need to listen.
It's honestly so nice. Me and the chefs all follow each other on Instagram.
Oh.
It's regular that I'll get like a DM of a photo of something that they put on their buffet that they're super excited to show me. Maybe they took something we worked on together 2 years ago, but then they added a twist to it and they'll send me photos of how the vegan options are looking at their properties.
Oh my gosh, this is really sweet. That has to feel really good to get those messages. Like, you probably are a little apprehensive sometimes with how people are going to respond to the things that you're bringing them. And then to get that is kind of like, okay, this worked.
It's so nice. Or they'll, I'll post something related to my life here in New York on Instagram and they'll write me like, oh, how did you do this? We'll kind of just like chat back and forth. They're just, the passion inside of them to keep upping their vegan options is something that makes me feel so good at the end of the day and makes the whole project feel so worthwhile.
Oh, I bet. And so it's kind of speaking about challenges, did you face challenges in the beginning with implementing, additional vegan options? Was there ever pushback? Were there ever, chefs that were like, you know what, this isn't going to work and I don't know why we're wasting our time?
So I think the biggest challenge we had in the process, of course, my experience is mostly from working with ingredients that I can access here where I live. So the very first time I went to Club Med, I packed a big suitcase of all the things that I worked on over ice. And I brought it to kind of show them, like, these are the tools that I have in New York, but we have to work together at the ingredients that you have and that you can get and work with those. So it was a kind of a process of me showing them, like, this is my go-to technique and these are the ingredients I use. But then we worked with their purchasing manager, which is a very robust program, which is great. We had access to a lot, but we looked at like, okay, what makes sense to import and what makes sense to rely on what they can find locally and work within that. So I think that was like a little bit more of a trial and error process together. And we landed on like a set of ingredients for them that are accessible, that they know that they can get, so they can always have those options for the guests.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I didn't even think about what they might have access to because, up here for us, in the markets we live in, we're kind of spoiled with choice and can get really random things. So I bet things like, I don't know, could you find nutritional yeast at markets in the Dominican Republic?
Totally. They were able to find more than, what they were able to find surprised me. But I think also just the food tech space has evolved so much in general that we are seeing a lot of new to market ingredients and technologies here. So, but I think what people come to Club Med for is a lot of that freshness of the local cuisine and local produce. So again, the creativity is there with the chefs, and we could look at, ingredients that they already have, a lot of which they could just rely on produce and what they have available in the fresh capacity than necessarily needing to use grocery substitutes or alternatives.
Yeah. So then were there some menu items that you wanted to bring to them that because of access to options you weren't able to do because they wouldn't have had a steady stream of, I don't know, a steady stream of some kind of fancy mushroom or something like that?
Yeah, we actually, that's a perfect example. I know on this last trip that I did, we were working on Caesar salad with shiitake bacon. And shiitake bacon is that's my go-to crunchy, crispy substitute that you can add as that little umami flavor on top of a salad. And I always make it out of shiitake mushrooms. But when I brought them there in my suitcase, they were like, ooh, these are a little bit harder to find. But they had other mushrooms. I think we ended up going with a baby portobello mushroom. And so I demoed it with shiitake in our work together. But then that night when I went to the buffet, one of the chefs tried it with the mushrooms that they have available. And I remember saying to them, this is even better than the one that we did in class earlier. So I love when that happens, when we work on something and then they take it to the next level.
That is really awesome. We have to take one step back to your suitcase. Did TSA stop you with all of these things that were stashed in there?
My heart was racing. I was like, am I going to get sent home? And at first, I think it was different bags of unidentified flowers. And they were kind of what are you trying to bring in? But then I think when they saw the sprinkles and I was explaining that I was a chef and vegan, they just let me through very nicely.
Hey there, fantastic listeners. Let's hit pause on this episode for a thrilling announcement, a golden ticket to Globetrot with Veggies Abroad. Veggies Abroad isn't just your go-to for vegan guides and trip planning tips. It's your passport to extraordinary small group journeys, carefully crafted by the ultimate veggie pusher and your favorite podcast host, me, Rebecca Gade Sawicki. I've spent countless hours researching the best vegan hotels, food, and experiences, and now I'm bringing those experiences directly to you. Join me and my newfound veggie pals on escapades to exciting and exotic destinations around the world. Whether it's trekking through the Thai jungle to witness elephants in their natural habitat, or staying at a carbon-neutral camp in Kenya during the Great Migration, our adventures are nothing short of spectacular. And guess what? Those aren't the only exciting trips awaiting you. So what are you waiting for? Cruise on over to veggiesabroad.com pronto. Well, how about after this episode is over to explore our dazzling lineup of 2024 trips and secure your spot on your next vegan adventure today. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. I used to get asked all the time by former colleagues. They're like, do you bring all of your food with you when you travel? Does TSA ask you questions? And I actually used to, in my carry-on, I'd have a stack bag. And sometimes it would get flagged by TSA. And it would always start a conversation with the agent oh, why do you have these? Are you gluten-free? Are you vegan? My sister is X, Y, and Z. And can I take a picture of this? It was
That's
the
so funny.
Thing. Yeah, I can only imagine the stress of trying to get mushrooms into another country and what that could bring.
Totally. And I think even though I've done it many times now, that moment is still it just feels like a big moment where I'm like, oh my God, the whole trip's not going to work if I can't bring this suitcase with me.
No, oh my gosh. What were some of your favorite options that you came up with for their menus?
I think some of the favorites we've done, I know that brunch and breakfast is a very big part, especially of the buffet that's offered at Club Med. So we had a lot of fun diving into breakfast and brunch items. I know even just something as simple as like vegan pancakes. I have like a vegan pancake recipe that's very easy, very simple, very straightforward. The batter holds up very well, especially in a buffet format. So something like that, we can work on that base recipe together and they can taste it and be like, this is great. It doesn't taste like it's missing eggs or butter or dairy or milk. But then they can also build on that base recipe and add in like their local, I think when I was there, they were working with passion fruit and all this amazing produce and really infusing different types of flavor. So that's my goal when I'm working with them is like, what kind of base techniques can we work on together so that you can have all the creativity with the options that you offer to your non-vegan guests and just apply that to your vegan guests as well.
That's really cool. Were there things that you had come up with and kind of thought, okay, this is how it's going to be, but then you got there and you realized they have access to passion fruit or dragon fruit or something like that. So then you like kind of put a spin on it to make it more connected to the local area?
I would say that happened with pretty much every recipe I brought. There was always something where they'd be like, yes, we could do that, but also we could do this. And I would be so excited. I think we did a cupcake recipe. I forget what the flavor was originally supposed to be, but then they were like, look at these mangoes that I have. And then we were like, all right, we gotta use the mangoes and the cupcakes. And we came up with like a mango puree. We pumped it inside of each cupcake and it was so delicious. So yes, definitely everything we worked on was centered around highlighting and featuring the beautiful produce that they have in the different regions.
That's awesome. That is always really nice when you can kind of blend those two things together. So this makes me wonder, do you know how guests have received all of the new options? Have you been given feedback or heard any of the praise on any of the new menu items?
I do get feedback here and there, and it's really great to hear when, someone can be in a different country than I am at the present moment and still be able to eat something that, that I feel connected to. That's just an exciting moment. I think for vegan guests, and I know I feel this way too, it's almost just like feeling like someone is thinking about you and your needs while you're on vacation is something that's just feels so special when you're trying to relax and enjoy a holiday, knowing that you're being taken care of. And so I think there's just been a big sense of appreciation for the fact that Club Med is interested in making their options special for the vegan guests and making sure that they're satisfied.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious if this has happened. Have you had any chefs tell you that they maybe once thought plant-based options weren't for them, but now they've started to incorporate more of that into their own diets?
That was the best part for me, honestly, was working with these chefs. Yeah, because you're right. Like, you never know. And these are great chefs from all around the world that Club Med has been working with. So, there was a part of me that's like, did they really even need to learn anything with me together? They're so accomplished and successful with their own recipes, but I was so overwhelmed with just their willingness and interest level in expanding their library of culinary techniques to include vegan items. I think seeing how happy it made them to work on these things was just really fun. It was so fun to have that level of enthusiasm. And I've definitely done consulting in different types of capacities. And I will say that working with the Club Med chefs has just been really fun. And the joy that I sense from the chefs in creating the vegan options, for me, I feel like that's something a guest can taste. So I was really thrilled that they were bringing this level of joy and happiness to the vegan options.
That's really awesome to hear. Was it always kind of your intention to move into the consulting realm on the food side of things? As you know, you've run restaurants, you've been on Cupcake Wars, developed cookbooks, done so many things. Was this kind of like the next evolution of, your brand and your mission?
Well, I do love travel, as do you. I think travel is so fun. And for me, I know when I travel, it's for the food. Like that is my favorite part of travel. So the idea that I could help make the vegan travel experience better through this partnership with a company as widespread, as wonderful as Club Med is super exciting. I also love, doing restaurants and, serving people in my own space. But I think, like I said before, the level of joy that I was met with by the Club Med chefs and how interested they were in learning with me, that just seemed like such a fun thing that I had never had the opportunity to do before.
That's very neat. So do you think that maybe this partnership has the ability to influence other hotels and resorts to adopt more vegan-friendly options?
I hope so. It's a fun thing that a company can do that actually has a really large impact on their guest experience and the guests that they're able to reach and include in the experience. And so I hope that would be true. And it's also fun for someone like me as the consulting chef, because then I also get to learn so many things from these chefs. So it really felt like a very collaborative experience working with them. And that was something that I was grateful to be able to learn from.
Yeah, I bet. And, I think this really kind of sets the stage for kind of this next evolution in, hotel options and trends. And so many places are looking for ways to cut carbon emissions and to become more sustainable. And looking at what's in your kitchen cannot be an afterthought. We have to look at, your waste. We have to look at what you're providing to guests. And,
yes.
Only having lettuce isn't going to help you meet your sustainability goals.
Totally. A little goes a long way too. Like if you offer just a couple extra options that are creative and thoughtful, it changes the whole dining experience for a vegan guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Then they don't feel like they were an afterthought. The other thing that I always hate is when there's no non-dairy milk option. Like, just at least give us one. Like, I had one person once say, well, we have goat milk. And I'm like, you have goat milk? You don't have oat, almond, soy, rice, any of the others, but you have goat of all things in this world.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, small things make a big difference.
Totally. And the good thing about Club Med, which I really appreciate, is they encourage, their chefs to interact with their guests, which I think is really nice that there's that point of connection between the guest and the chef. But if you tell them that you're vegan, which they encourage you to do, the chefs have the ability to go off of the menu and really accommodate you and maybe pull out some of the techniques that I had worked on with them. So they're not just limited to a set standardized menu that they offer. A creativity is not only encouraged, but it's celebrated there. And I think that makes it much more fun to dine there if you're eating a vegan meal.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I think that makes all the difference. And it's nice too, because now that they've worked with you, they actually know what vegan means. That is always a complaint I get from travelers, is that they'll go somewhere and they'll say, I'm vegan. And I've had this too. And like, here are the options. You're like, wait a second, those are vegetarian. Or the person like, we have gluten-free options. And you're like, sweet. That's the same thing. Yeah. So it's nice that, like, people can feel confident that when they go to a Club Med location and say, hey, I'm vegan, that the chef's not going to look at them like a deer in headlights.
Absolutely. And I think, what we really worked on too was options that are not just good to serve to vegan guests, but options that everyone would appreciate whether they're vegan or not. So really learning about their customer and their guest and, what their preferences are and coming up with options that they could serve to everyone and you could enjoy it whether you're vegan or not.
Yeah, that's a great point because so many vegan options are not eaten by vegans or vegan products aren't purchased by vegans. It's people who are interested in them. So let's talk a little bit about the kind of that guest profile and who were the people that they were trying to target and what are they generally kind of looking for?
I think the main feedback that I got in each resort that I worked on was that the guest is really interested in trying, local cuisine and food that highlights local produce. And so, we could just make recipes that are vegan, but what are the recipes that are vegan that people really want to eat when they're in this country at this resort? So we were able to work together and really figure out a way to highlight that. And I think that was what I heard guest preferences were leaning towards.
That's very nice. I've also heard that guests maybe tend to be a little bit more active and there's some more wellness, especially at the Dominican Republic location, that maybe people are kind of leaning into that. And so they're looking for fresher options.
Yeah.
And like you said, celebrating the local produce.
Exactly.
It's nice to have those options complement the place because it's, always disjointed when you go somewhere that's like, we are into wellness. And then the food is a complete different story.
Totally.
So when we look ahead to the future, I've been told that you are sticking around to help the Club Med team, which is really exciting. Are there new concepts and things that you're going to be working on that you can share?
Don't have anything specific to share. But I know that, I've thoroughly enjoyed working with Club Med. And as I said, like every chef that I meet and work with there, we keep in touch. And I love that. So it's just each time I get to do, either a workshop or an activation with them, that's another chef that I get close to and get to meet and stay connected with. So we're always brainstorming together, and I'm just so happy that I get the chance to meet all of these wonderful people and chefs and keep creating with them.
Do you think there is a plan to maybe roll out menus to other Club Med resorts, maybe in Europe or in other parts of the world outside of North America?
We have definitely discussed this, and we think that the appetite is there. We're definitely, I share the value of Club Med. We all share the same value, which is just always quality first. So we're never going to take on a project that we can't see through and execute with high quality. So I think that's why we're starting, one resort at a time. But I know the goal is to reach as many people as possible with more vegan, delicious options.
Yeah, that would be great because there looks like there are some really nice options in Spain and Morocco. And that would be great to visit those places and be able to have one of your cupcakes.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
That would be. Well, as we wrap this up, my last important question for you is, where is your favorite place in the world to go and why?
Well, I am Italian and I do love Italy because I love pasta and I love good quality olive oil and tomatoes. So I guess if you're going to force me to pick a place that I want to go, like this weekend, maybe I would say Italy.
Yeah, this weekend.
Yeah, I'll take Italy this weekend. But yeah, there's so many great places to explore. And I think being vegan makes it even more fun because you just get so excited about eating wherever you are in the world that you're visiting.
Yes, absolutely. It forces you to kind of get off the beaten path a little bit, to interact with people maybe you had not before, and to experience things that are maybe unique.
Yes.
Chloe, it has been wonderful chatting with you. Thank you again for taking time out of your busy day. And I look forward to seeing what you develop next with Club Med.
Thank you so much. It was so nice chatting with you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you'd also like to learn more about upcoming Veggies Abroad tours or get additional travel help, visit veggiesabroad.com and also join our newsletter. It's the best way to stay up to date with loads of new content, like where to find gorgeous vegan hotels, what to eat in cities around the world, trip planning tips, and so much more. Well, that's all I've got for now. Until next time.